gathering energy, it is losing energy. And when atoms die, and they die, a million times a second, but when they spin out and expand and disappear, that energy, the shells of energy that are thrown off, are absorbed by like atoms in that same frequency range. They will absorb that as spin and spin them up. In that case, it becomes ice-entropy, which is the reverse of entropy. But even that, eventually, all that gained energy is distributed over greater volumes of space, and then eventually to stillness. At least that's the way it's going now. There's one theory that says we'll get out to that point somewhere where all of a sudden everything will just collapse back in on itself. But I'm not too sure that's the case, because gravity is a function of spin, and if spin stops, there's nothing to pull everything back together again. It's just the Dirac sea. There's nothing there.
Okay, yeah, I agree. We've got two more questions, Stan. Gemini.
Stan, who in your opinion controls the Illuminati, and do you believe that U.S. presidents and other world leaders take their orders from the Illuminati?
Certainly the U.S. presidents and world do take orders from the Illuminists. I know that down in Australia, when I was still with the group, my controller, Sir John, and Sir Henry, one of the other guys in it, we were at the Melbourne Club having lunch one day, and this is where all the cotton-top, cigar-smoking, port-drinking oldies gather. And I was told after that meeting, we were discussing the global economy and various other things, to ring the deputy prime minister of the country at home and tell him that he was to attend a certain meeting on energy exchange with the Dutch Shell Oil Group. And so, I called the deputy prime minister and told him to get his butt in order to get over to this meeting because, the Illuminists had said so. He said, okay, be right there, do it, no problem. Got him out of the shower to do it. So I do know that world leaders do listen to these guys. And whether they are threatened, whether they are given bonuses that are just too hard to turn down in some way, I don't know. But that's the Western world. And the Arab nations and the Chinese, the Asian nations, are not fully on board with listening to the Illuminists. The Illuminists don't control them as much as people would like to think. Certainly Nixon tried, and various Kissinger's tried with the Chinese, major Asian players, and the Asian players have now reversed the tables and becoming a strong economy and a strong military, and so they're kind of a fly in the ointment of the world Illuminist crowd. U.S. presidents, look at the current president we've got. He's not doing the decision making really. He's out playing golf or kicking sand down the beach or something fun, watching a basketball game or something. Getting him to do anything serious other than reading a speech is very difficult. But that's because he is just kind of a figurehead for the advisors behind him who are actually giving the orders and making things happen. I'm sure that the other presidents before him have had more free time than we thought because the Illuminists were doing their job. Good management's that way. You have a staff underneath you that can do all that stuff, and you become a figurehead and a manager. This guy just, anyway, Kissinger wants him to be the fair-haired boy, the first leader of the new world order, the new world government that is going to have to be established to solve the global economic problem and the global nuclear threat problem and the global geophysical changes problem, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see. I personally think that Obama is just too weak a character to be a strong global leader for the Illuminists. And the rest of the world knows it too. He's a joke overseas. People laugh at him and laugh at the Americans for letting him, meet the president. But there's another guy I'm watching over in the Middle East that's really got my attention as far as a strong leader for what's coming. So we'll see.
Stan, who do you believe, in your opinion, controls the Illuminati? And if you can say who you're watching in the Middle East, I'd love to know that as well.
The Illuminati is a loose term which basically addresses the powerhouses of world banking in the Western world. the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, there are the standard list of names. I've got them in the Cosmic Conspiracy, plus we've added new ones, I'm sure, over the years since I wrote the book. These are the people that are the movers and shakers at such a point of wealth that money is no longer really anything but power. And these people, you can see a lot of them in the City of London, the financial City of London, not the physical City of London, but the economic City of London. And you can see them in New York and various other islands where they've got tax havens and control of their lifestyle. I think a lot of them probably even have facilities underground in various places in cities that have been built in tunnels and large hollowed-out areas that have all kinds of life support for them in there to weather most disasters. The Asian side of the equation, they probably have their equivalents of the Illuminists, but they are not as unified as the Western European, American factions of this. I think even some Japanese have been involved in it as well. This is not a global control. They've certainly influenced global politics and economy for a number of decades, but that control it's got to come to a global structure almost immediately, and it will not be stable because there are elements within the Illuminists on the Western side and the Asian side, their equivalent, which are vying for control of the world government the way they want it. So it won't be stable, and it won't last more than a decade, probably not more than 6 or 7 years. There is a fellow in the Middle East, which I've mentioned in my book, The Vindicator Scrolls, which is now out of print. I've been watching him since 1988. He's about my age. He's about 65, 66 years old, and he's now gotten gray at the top, and he's the executive vice president, senior vice president of the Merhav, M-E-R-H-A-V group of companies out of Israel. He is not a religious man. He is against all this God, holiness, religious Bible, Torah stuff. He said that at private parties. He is a bright man, and he organized the first 100 days of Shimon Peres's prime ministership over in Israel. And his name is Nimrod Novik, which is an Assyrian name, and the scriptures do speak of an Assyrian, the Assyrian, as either the false prophet or the Antichrist of the last days of this age. And Nimrod is a strong man. He and his boss, who is a friend of his, who's a former Mossad agent as well, have been buying up water rights, dams in surrounding countries, and in South America, energy rights for oil, gas. And they bought up Channel 10, controlled Channel 10 in Israel for media. It's a huge conglomerate of power structure. And when the United States falls, the global leadership will go back to Europe and possibly some Israeli involvement in that. Since this guy is so kind of anti-everything that Israel should stand for, I think that he could very easily act against Israel, in favor of a global message or a global structure that he and his boss are aiming toward. I mean, they've been getting water rights in Turkey and, to the Euphrates. I mean, all these things are prophetic things that you see mentioned, in the Bible about what would happen, who the control would go to in the last days. Now, I could be wrong. There may be a younger, brighter fellow that comes on the scene, but at the moment, this guy's name, Nimrod Novik, is like the grapevine that entwines and captures, and his name is Assyrian after the first rebel named Nimrod in the Old Testament. So it all kind of adds together that he might be a front runner. Certainly, his manner, his knowledge, his personality would be strong, would favor force to get things done. And that's what Daniel says. He will be a God of forces, strength, that supports the New World Order. And so the false God, the Satan of the Bible, the alien posing as a God, will give technology and power to this leader so he can run by force the global government. And he'll overthrow many of the strongholds of the nations that would resist him at that time with this super technology he's got from the quote-unquote alien God. which Daniel does call him an alien god. They're just, I'm not going to be pedantic about it, but certainly I've been watching him for a long time, and he's certainly been doing what I would expect him to do if he were going to be the leader of this new world order. He's still got to do something miraculous. He's got to pull a rabbit out of the hat to solve our energy problems, our geophysical changes problems, our threat of nuclear war. He's got to initiate or endorse a peace treaty in the Middle East for a 7-year period. And Nimrod Novik has been involved in that, in the Oslo Accords. He was part of that. And if anybody's going to make a peace treaty in the Middle East, they've got to live there, know there, be born there, and have it in their blood about how to bring a peaceful negotiation between parties that have been warring for over 3,000 years over who owned the land. So just bear that in mind.
We will, Stan. Stan, as we end this discussion, we wanted to ask you one final question from Gemini.
It seems like the earth changes are now upon us from the sun. As we live through these next few years, what is the most important thing you would like to end with for those listening to this show?
Well, obviously we're in for some rather trying times in just our food chain and the weather. I do believe we're going to have a growing shortage of fresh water supplies and with adequate food. 80% to 90% of the world at the moment subsists on a lot less, maybe 30 times less than you and I do here in the Western world. We don't have to worry about what we eat or how much we get to eat. It's like what flavor, how many of, and how many calories, and oh gosh, this kind of stuff. So on a global basis, we're looking at famine, and that's going to tax our resources here in this country and in Europe and various other producers of the global food basket at the moment. So I'm suggesting that people do two things. They prepare physically with freeze-dried food and medicines and defense for their homes, and they try to develop community with their neighbors and family so that they can act together in wherever they are to survive what is coming, and that they have water storage and water purification techniques like chlorine, powdered, or Clorox without all the detergent and stuff in it. And that's physically preparing, and Holly talks about that in her book, the Dare to Prepare book. 69 chapters of very good information on all sorts of things you can do to get prepared for the changes that are underway now and are going to get much more dramatic as the next decade ensues. That's physically preparing. I'm a firm believer that we will all die eventually, and that in that process we leave our bodies, but we exist after that. I've had the out-of-body experience. I know we do exist outside this body. So I say to people, the most important thing, other than physical preparation, it supersedes that, is your spiritual relationship with our Creator. That is the most important issue to get straight. And, of course, I'm a Judeo-Christian myself, Messianic believer, so I say Jesus is our doorway, and I accept that, and I encourage people to look into that. It's a gift to take that step that lets you be saved into the next life, whatever that form takes. So that's the two most important things that I put out to people as we go into the end of this age, at the beginning of that 1,000-year millennium.
Thank you so much, Stan. It's been a pleasure. I hope it's been enjoyable for you as it has been for us. If not, bad luck, mate. So Fred Hoyle, the controversial English astronomer and mathematician, said, "I don't see the logic of rejecting data just because they seem incredible. Stan, you exhibit the statement to a T, a logical man with an openness to investigate and understand the incredible. On behalf of Fox and all the members of the WebBot Forum, we thank you. May you have many good pies to come."
Thank you. Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.